another planet? Is Janet from 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 another planet?
Good morning. You guys good? Ladies and
Good
gentlemen?
morning.
Good morning.
Hi. What's up, Jim? I know it's early for you. Thanks for getting up. Uh, I was thinking about not doing one of these today because, I talked a lot yesterday, but uh, there seems to be a demand because I would say semi-significant stuff happened last night, and none of it was unexpected. So that's something to keep in mind. Just like yesterday, if you listened yesterday, it's recorded. I think Monday night Monday afternoon I did something too. Uh, it's very, very important, guys. We take control of not so much the narrative. That's a big part of it, yes, but the situation. And that if you're disappointed or if you think that this is a referendum on what President Trump's state of his presidency is, I would tell you just pump the brakes on that straight up because how can the New York City mayor's race be a referendum on anything President Trump is doing right now? There hasn't been a Republican elected mayor since when was Rudy's last election? 1997. So where was the upset? Are you surprised that the Democrats are electing a communist? I mean, they've been electing communists, guys, since the end of World War II.
De Blasio was a quiet communist.
Yes, that is true. And this is what New York City is, guys. There's no surprise here. Like people are acting like a Democrat communist became the mayor of Asheville, North Carolina, or Lancaster, Pennsylvania. That's not what this is, friends. It's not. Trump's not on the ballot, so Curtis Slowak can't win the New York mayor. I mean, give me a fucking break. This is the crap you're hearing from people. I do feel sorry if you listen to those people. They don't know what they're talking about, as usual. So look up in the nest. Two New Yorkers, two guys from Queens, actually. President Trump and 50 Cent are in agreement on RIP NYC. So this is, again, no surprise here. Now, to my New York patriots that listen to this, that refuse to leave the city, you have my admiration and respect. And I want you to fight for what you think is the right thing to do. But I'm telling you, the city's done because this guy is going to have 4 years of unfettered power. And the fact that New York City is going to implode is not a reflection on your patriotism as a New Yorker from Brooklyn, the Bronx, Staten Island, Queens. Has nothing to do with that. Has everything to do with the fact that you are outnumbered, okay? Uh, Significantly outnumbered in the city or in any of the boroughs, all right? And it's the same thing I would tell a Democrat in Casper, Wyoming, okay? It's the same thing I would tell a Democrat in Panama City Beach, Florida. It's the same thing I would tell a Democrat, okay, in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You have no chance of winning anything here because there's not enough of you. Now, patriotic New Yorkers don't want to hear that. They think there's a chance. There's no chance, guys. You have to be honest with people. It's a numbers game. Mayoral elections, things like that, especially in big blue cities, guys. It's those cities have been rigged for Democrats organically or via cheating since the early 1960s. Chicago's like this, Philadelphia's like this, Boston's like this, and surer than anything, New York is like this. And guys, this is a reflection. We have to be honest. It's not lack of voter enthusiasm, guys. The ghost of Charlie Kirk could not have knocked doors and done anything to prevent Mamdani from winning. The problem is this whole Cuomo thing was a bit of a distraction, and people were leaving the light on late into the night that there was a chance, maybe just a chance, he would win. It's New York City, guys. It's if there is ever a place that is the Democrats' home turf, whether they are uh, Clinton Democrats or Bloomberg Democrats or AOC Socialist Democrats. That is their turf, guys. It's not even a debatable point. Like, I don't even know why we're arguing. Well, we're not arguing. People are even entertaining the conversation. It's ridiculous. Okay? It was Mom Donnie's race to lose. You got to remember something. When a New York is a Democrat city, forget the fact he's a Muslim because you're all getting hung up on that. I'm not really a fan of any religion, guys. Okay? Muslims, Jews, Christianity, to me that collectively they've misguided people for thousands of years, in my opinion. Even though I am a Christian, doesn't mean I like talking about it or hanging out with them. And you guys are all going to get hung up on Sharia. It's not about forget the Islam, guys. That's the last of your problems. The problems is the cops are going to be in short supply in that city in about 3 to 6 months. Okay, he's going to have, in my opinion, thousands of resignations of first responders because they're not going to be allowed to do their job because they're whatever de Blasio was doing with the police force, sending social workers to, you know, uh, crime scenes and domestic assault and all that's going to be uplifted on steroids. And it's going to be quite pointless to be a law enforcement officer in New York City, probably by April or May. It's going to be an absolute waste of their time. Why should these men and women risk their life for a mayor that doesn't have their back? Well, de Blasio didn't have their back. This guy's even more radical, friends. Okay? He's on a mission to destroy New York City. He's not going to dial it in after he meets with Democrat Wall Street business Democrats. There's no dialing it back. Do you know how he said last year Trump has a mandate because of his election victory in the Senate and the House and blah, 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 popular vote? This guy blew out a former governor whose father was governor, okay? And a guy who founded the Guardian Angels like they were gutter trash. It was over before it started. If we're saying Trump has a mandate, Mamdani has a mandate in New York City. So don't expect that this guy is going to be, you know, on a leash from Wall Street or people like Bill Ackman and Jamie Dimon in the fight. They have no control. This guy, you've given a juvenile delinquent the keys to your Ferrari in a crate full of hand grenades with the pins halfway out. So I really hope you guys have the stomach to endure what you're going to see in New York City. It's because it's going to be atrocious over the next 3 to 6 months, and it's only going to get worse. So I'll go to Susan in a second here. Look up in the nest here. And so it begins. President Trump is going to have to wage economic war from the Washington, D.C. against New York. There's no other way. There's no saving the city. I don't even think Trump can save it. He can withhold the money, and what's going to happen is Mamdani is going to get all those young people. By the way, Mamdani got 80% of voters 18 to 29 years old last night. Just like I've been telling you, New York City is not a city of working class Italian Americans and Irish Americans. You don't have Officer Flanagan on the beat. Okay. Those days are gone. You're thinking about movies from the 1970s about New York. That's what we call ancient history, A, and B, fiction. All right. New York City is run by uh, ignorant, poor, and dangerous white college age students that are not originally from New York. We call them transient people. And then illegal immigrants that hate this country. Arabs, Somalis, people from Latin America. That's New York City. Okay, that's your shining city on a hill. That's what it is right now. It's not Italians and Jews and Irish people like you think it is. Those days are over, and they've been over. This is just dotting the I's and crossing the T's. You guys need to understand this, and if you don't understand this, you're going to be very frustrated between now and next spring. Yes, the New York City voted for a communist. This should not be surprising to you. Okay, again, the ghost of Charlie Kirk could have knocked 1,000, 10,000 doors. It wouldn't have made a difference last night. Look at the margin of victory. That's where New York. I don't know. AOC in Queens, she's getting elected handily. Okay, or the Bronx, wherever she's out of. Okay, she's not the only one, guys. New York has a lot of radical people in it. A lot of radical federal representatives in Congress. Schumer's the least of the problem. He's just an old fool. So the future in New York is not a good one. It's not a doom pill. It's a reality pill. You should, if you're concerned about, the midterms and it's a reflection on Trump and we can't win without him on the ballot, then you should be doing everything you can, as I plan to do, to help out the 20 swing districts that are going to decide Congress. I'm talking about Western Pennsylvania, Bucks County, those congressional seats that are purple areas, Asheville, North Carolina, purple area, Madison, Wisconsin, Green Bay was purple areas. That's what we should be focusing on as a Republican Party. That district in Nebraska where Omaha is, that's what we need to be focusing on. So now you know why Trump is pushing Indiana to redistrict. We'll pick up a few seats. Florida may redistrict, making the Democrat Party irrelevant in the states of Florida and Indiana, much like the Republican Party is irrelevant in New York City. Same principle. All right, let me pause there. Let me get the ladies in here. Janet's one of the co-hosts. I'll let her go, then Susan. And let's have a robust, brief discussion here, guys. I do hope you participate and not just listen to me. I want to hear, if you disagree with me, why you disagree with me. And if you're worried about the midterms, let me be your therapist, okay? Janet, go ahead.
Well, 100% agree with you. The thing is, communists don't understand that freedom is not free, and the rest of the country is going to end up paying for this. And when they don't get their free stuff because Trump cuts off federal aid, because of the illegals, because of ICE, and all the other reasons that he has legitimate purpose to do, they're all going to blame Trump and everyone like us. So I really feel for the people, the Trump supporters that have been verbal in the city of New York, because they're going to be the targets. So I'm praying for that. But you are right. There are going to be massive layoffs because people are going to be leaving in droves. The sad truth is all those people that leave because they really are shocked that this is happening are going to move to another state near them and vote the same way. So we're all going to feel the impact of this. That's all I wanted to add. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Sorry, I accidentally hit the mute everyone button. Sorry about that, guys. Yes, thank you, Janet. It's going to be a sobering lesson to Republicans that they still can't seem to get it in their head that, yes, there is a demographic of people, and most of them aren't even American citizens that live in New York City. Guys, you got 80% of the Gen Z vote in the city, in the 5 boroughs. How is he going to lose? All of you need to go to New York City. I want everybody to go there before the end of January. Just take a day trip. Not because I want you to go to a particular restaurant or take a, go see the Statue of Liberty. I want you to just go on a fact-finding mission to find out who lives in New York. You're not going to see people that look and dress like me there, walking around Midtown. You're gonna see college students, freaks, people that look like Kamala Harris's stepdaughter. A lot of people like that. People that don't even fucking belong here from the third world. You don't know New York City and how it's not just the pandemic that changed everything. It's many things, and it's come to a fever pitch right now. Yes, this is what they want. They want communism. It shouldn't be. We're so frustrated with young people, and we see them obstructing ICE and participating in rioting, and they're all young people, guys. I mean, who does that but communists? Why are you surprised by what happened today? The real problem is many of you thought Cuomo had a chance, and even he would be better than Mandami, but that's not saying much at all. given his conduct during the summer of 2020. That would be Andrew Cuomo. So anyway, let's continue on, Susan. Hi.
Good morning. Good morning, my fellow Americans. What's ironic about this whole thing, and I was shocked when I read it this morning, that 35% of the Jewish folks in New York City voted for Mandani, which maybe they're all secular Jews. I don't know, but it's mind-boggling to me. You've got the Middle East where Jews and Muslims hate each other, yet you have Jews in this country voting for Muslims. I no one's ever been able to explain that to me ever. Second of all, I'm more concerned of the fact, not so much Madani winning. I'm more concerned with the fact that the people down in Virginia voted for a man who dreamed of killing children in the mother's arms, his political opponent. So that tells me a lot about what happened in the last 25 years to the mindset of America. That just remember when Biden lied and he plagiarized some speeches from the guy in England and all the different things that he did, and he was like immediately, nope, we're not going to have a liar. Now they're voting for people that wish their opponent to die and dreams about it. With that being said, I am not upset about what happened last night. It was predictable. You have three deep blue states that voted for Mandan, they just traded another liberal for another liberal. Republicans didn't lose last night. It stayed status quo. That's the way I look at it. New York is going to find out, and they're going to probably have to fight. Some of them may move. I don't know how many. I think most of them from 24 years ago after 9/11 stayed. They were young. They were in their 30s, 40s, or 50s. They retired. They moved out. It's not the same New York 24 years ago where people were patriotic and America first and we're going to fight this terrorism. That's gone. And when you have students from um, colleges that don't even live in New York that were allowed to vote in those elections, which is also mind boggling. I know New Hampshire changed that. You have to be a permanent resident in New Hampshire if you go to college in order to vote in New Hampshire. But in New York, anybody can vote. And I guarantee you, about 500,000 to 600,000 illegal aliens voted yesterday. Thanks for letting me have the mic.
Yes, thank you. I've thrown some information up for you. So Joel Fisher, who is Jewish, everybody has to relax. This is not a blue wave. This is blue state and blue cities. We were hoping to flip it, but we didn't. But it's not the end of the world. We all expected this result. I don't disagree with that. Another thing, it's from Geiger Capital. 84% of women in Gen Z ages 18 to 29 voted for Mamdani, the most lopsided group.
They thought he was cute.
No, they're just retarded, Susan. But like, we have a lot of young people that are misguided. A lot of them. They're the biggest problem. They're very easy to be manipulated emotionally. Everything from affordability to free Palestine and things like that. And again, we can talk about it today because the ink is not dry. But please, I implore you guys to kind of elevate the conversation and not talk about he's a Muslim. I mean, guys, there's been Muslims in New York for 100 years. I mean, again, drive down there. Don't get your snapshot of New York via X or Instagram. There's tons of Arabs everywhere. They probably outnumber Italians. I would say they probably outnumber some Hispanic groups at this point in all the boroughs, Indians as well. I mean, New York is a melting pot. There's a lot of Muslims there. right? So we have Muslim mayors throughout the country. And I'm not defending anything. I'm just telling you that not all Jews are religious. Like, some of you may have been baptized, but you haven't been inside of a church since you were a teenager. There's a lot of Jews like that too. They're not, they don't care about Israel. They don't care about keeping the Sabbath. uh, you have to look at it the same way. Yes, I do believe that there are left-wing Jews that are like atheistic, just like there's left-wing Christians that are atheistic. And yes, they don't care about him being a Muslim. What we should all care about, though, is uh, the anarchy that's going to ensue and the unsurmountable crime wave that's about to hit. And I can't imagine waking up and being a landlord or a cop in New York City right now. Those are the people I'm concerned about, are the first responders and the landlords, because they're about to get fucked in the ass pretty hard, excuse me, and ladies, by this guy. And it's infuriating. And we need to start talking about how do we fix the problem, not, I can't believe New York voted for a Muslim I can, because I've fucking been there, guys, many times. And it's New York is many things. Conservative and Christian is not one of them. So none of this should be surprising to anybody in here. Threat, go ahead.
Hey, good morning. It's interesting because I kind of learned a lesson about myself last night, and that is I'm almost susceptible to confirmation bias, as all the retards on the left are susceptible. Even though if you would have asked me on Monday, do I expect a positive result in New York City, I would have said hell no. I mean, it's anybody who thinks otherwise is delusional. Yet I found myself last night completely pissed off at the result, and then waking up this morning and going, it was never in question. Like we should have just prepared our minds to know that this is exactly what was going to happen. But that said, you know, you were mentioning about some of the demographics and the young people. It's not surprising, right? I mean, I think back to high school. I'm a Gen Xer. I think back to high school. We had this campaign that our graduating class did in regards to McDonald's, because back then you got your burger in a styrofoam container, not a cardboard container. And of course, we all believe styrofoam was killing the planet. And I just remember we had no idea about anything, but it just sounded cool, right? Yeah, we're going to stand up to big McDonald's and we're going to save the planet and try to force them to change from using styrofoam. And kids are just super impressionable that way. And especially when they see their group, their peers getting on board with something, they're so susceptible to peer pressure and wanting to go along with the crowd and belong and feel part of it. They get sucked into these leftist causes. They don't understand the consequences, but they don't care. They're virtue signaling and participating in something that that they are sharing with their peer groups. And secondly, it's not surprising, they in a place like New York City or California that they lean so heavily left. Like, imagine if you're a 20-year-old right now and you're coming out of college, you're in your last year of college, and you just racked up $100,000 of student debt, and you have zero hope of buying a home. You probably can't even afford to buy a car anymore, let alone a home, right? Of course, they're going to be drawn to free transit and rent freezes and all of those things, because from their standpoint, it's hopeless for them in a place like New York City or San Francisco or Los Angeles. And so it's not surprising to me. You got this dingling communist mayor who's made all these promises and has no way to fund it. Like, he can't fund this stuff. He can't he can raise whatever fees and license fees and things like that that he has control over in the city of New York. But what's he going to do when people start leaving the city? People with money, business owners. And it doesn't take, I saw the statistic that, oh yeah, there's 1 million people expected to leave. Well, I don't believe 1 million people will leave. And it sure as hell doesn't take 1 million people to leave. 500, 500 influential, wealthy, business owners pick up and move their companies. Imagine the impact. So anyways, wrapping it all up. I think that, yeah, like I said in your previous space, Gads, yeah, New York's in for a real shitty time. But on the longer term outlook, I think I hate to say this is at the expense of New Yorkers, but all of these national Democrat personalities and politicians who have cheered for this guy, man, they're going to be tied to that connection as New York City crumbles. And I think that that's good long term nationally for the MAGA movement, for Republicans in general. And I'll stop it there.
Thank you. Yes, if he becomes the mouthpiece for the Democrat Party, and what's our critique is the opposition as MAGA people and the Democrats. They're leaderless. They're being, up until last night or recently, they're being led around by 85-year-old Nancy Pelosi and almost 80-year-old Chuck Schumer. That's all changed now. You still have AOC out there, but she's been around a bit. She's been around since 2018, and her act kind of wore thin because she's a fucking airhead. This guy is very much very dangerous, very much a smooth talker. If you're on the left, you think he's very thoughtful in his responses, etc. All the bullshit. This is something different. We're going to see. The squad is all women. Not to be a misogynist, ladies, but now there's a male squad member who's a better, on the surface politician operator than any of them combined, even AOC. So we'll see. It's not even the Democrats anymore. The left has been yearning for another Obama for a decade. They've been yearning for another Obama. And I think they have it now. And being the mayor of New York City is not a small thing. You don't need to be president to have an impact. Look at the impact AOC has had on the Democrat Party in the last 8 years that she's been in Congress. She's a superstar. She's a celebrity. Okay? And now they have another guy, and unlike Obama, who was afraid to say what his background was and his religious beliefs, this guy's owns it. Lock, stock, and barrel. So one has to wonder, as Threat was saying, the Democrats, how are they going to, the problem for them is how are they going to, just like a lot of Republicans in rhino districts can't divorce themselves from President Trump, and they're acting in this false reality that he's not the leader of the party or anything like. How are Democrats, how is Fetterman going to run in 2028 in his reelection when J.D. Vance is at the top of the ticket? This just made his job incredibly hard. I don't know if we care. I'm just pointing out. I'm just calling balls and strikes. Right now, John Fetterman's going to have the hardest reelection in Pennsylvania. Remember, they're in the tri-state area too. He's going to get some far left lunatic to primary him, possibly beat him. So yeah, the Democrats own this, guys. If Democrat pundits were saying we're going to rue the day that Donald Trump won the Republican nomination, and you're not the party of Reagan and Bush anymore, you're the party of MAGA, whatever that is. Remember, this is 2016. They didn't know what it was. You're the party of build the wall and Mexico's going to pay for it and Rosie O'Donnell's a pig and you're going to own it. Well, the Democrats are going to own this. And I don't know if they can recover from this, friends. So there's good and bad to be discussed here. It's not, it's totally everything bad for New York City. A learning lesson for not so much the Republican Party, but remember, it's New York City, guy. It wasn't a toss-up race or anything. Let's be realistic here. A learning experience. I mean, look at that. I don't want to hear people didn't, Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA. Look at that Geiger Capital. Look at that chart, guys. It's a sea of blue. There was nothing. There was nothing. If Charlie Kirk was alive, he could have done to get people out to vote. It's New York City, guys. You have to look at what takeaways we can act on are here for us. And one of them is we have to understand that New York City, until further notice, is a communist zone. Okay? Not because I think so, but because the people who live there want it to be. Mamdani he pulled no punches, guys. He was right out there. He wasn't talking about unifying. He wasn't talking about hope and change like Obama was in '08. He was right out there. Defund the police, raise taxes on rich white people. I mean, that is what the people wanted. So again, New York Patriots, you have my sympathy, but you're not going to win. I think you should really focus on, if you don't want to leave the state and you want to build something there, New York City is not the place I would start. Okay? Look at that chart above. It's going to take you 100 years to flip that. You don't have 100 years. You won't live that long. So with the time you have left, and I hope it's a lot of it, what are you going to do to be positive? You're going to stay in New York City and continue to pay high taxes and just, you can't level up, guys, when the odds are that stacked against you. Janet, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I blame parents. Basically, parents pay for everything. They pay for their college, their phones, their car payments, their food, whatever else they can. And now it's going to change, because once the parents are taxed so high they can't even afford to pay this stuff for the kids anymore, the kids are going to have to look at their paycheck and see FICA on it and realize, wow, it's up to them now to pay their bills. They're going to start realizing that they've been duped, that freedom isn't free, that other people pay for it, and that when their money's gone, nobody's paying for it. And when that happens, that means they'll be responsible for themselves. That's when reality is going to set in for all these kids and realize that um, uh, what they think they're supposed to get for free is not available, and that the government is in control of their lives. They're not going to like it. So then they're going to blame us and the Trump administration, and some of them are going to act out for it. But then reality is going to click in, and they're going to realize that mom and dad really did work hard and pay their bills and pay their way. And now they're going to have to figure it out for themselves, or live on the street, or go to jail to be able to go to the dentist. That's really sad. But the ones that leave are going to go to another state and vote the same way, thinking that free comes from the government. But they don't realize that without taxes from mom and dad, nothing's free. So I don't know. I just see a vicious cycle, and it's going to take a long time for people to wake up. But as long as there's people like Mandami and others that are so used to getting handouts and being paid for just for being who they are, like AOC, I don't see any way to fix it. And I've been talking about this for years, as of you and a few others. But us trying to show a few has helped a few, but we can't reach the masses. And until the masses go without, I just don't see them fixing anything. That's all I wanted to add.
Thank you. And on that, do you guys think the Democrats sit around have similar conversations than we're trying to have about Florida? I mean, it's the same shit, guys. The paradigm exists on both ends. When they see how decisively Trump won Florida last November. Even Miami-Dade County, one of the last blue big, I mean, it's a big county, last blue county is becoming purple. I mean, it's the same conversation, guys. This is not an outlier. Democrats had this conversation again about Florida, about places they can't win in, like Oklahoma, Arkansas. I understand it's not as sexy as New York City, but this is where we're at. Okay, you have to be very cognizant of, it's not hopelessness. Okay, raise your hand in here if you have the ability to do so right now. If you had any thought that a Republican was ever going to be mayor of New York City again. Okay, except for the people who had their hands up waiting to speak, I don't see any. So that answers that question. Let me go to somebody who hasn't spoken yet. Cow Daddy, go ahead.
Hey, Gads, appreciate it. So I see here in the next year where all these self-entitled kids that decided to vote for this crap, kind of sort of on the lines of what Janet was talking about, where the parents paying for everything. I actually see the murder rate going up astronomically, and it's going to be kids against their parents because their parents aren't going to be able to afford to pay for their stuff anymore. You know, they're free entitled BMWs and shit like that, or their college, or their apartments, or their cell phones, or their food, or their clothes, whatever. I actually see the murder rate skyrocketing, and I think it's really going to be these 18 to 24-year-olds going against their parents, because the parents are going to have to tell them no, otherwise they're going to be on the streets. So that's what I see coming. I see New York turning into an absolute bloodbath.
I do too, JW, and I have to tell you that I've heard a lot of commentary, and people have asked me straight. Maybe Cuervo did yesterday. I believe it was him. Do I see any commonality with London? See, the thing is people are obsessed with the Islam with this guy, and honestly, guys, fuck what his religion is. It's what he's actually going to do. Communism does not discriminate between Jews, Christians, or Muslims, Hindus, atheists. Everybody there is going to suffer. I'm going to allow, the dust to settle and people make it about a Sharia law. Guys, there's worse than Sharia law going on in New York. And it's going to, when the cops can't even do their job, who gives a fuck what religion the guy is? De Blasio was allegedly a Christian, and cops are being gunned down left and right there. Who cares? It doesn't have to be Sharia law. It's anarchy and it's chaos. So, again, I would ask you, I would beg you, you have to be a bit more than a two-dimensional thinker here and stop getting hung up on what his religion is. That's the least, a destructive person is a destructive person is a destructive person or politician in this. Doesn't matter what his faith is. Okay, look what Biden did to this country. He was allegedly a Catholic, my religion. And he let 20 million motherfuckers in this country. Do we have to call it Sharia law? Does Joe Biden have to be a Sunni Muslim or a Shia Muslim for it to, it's bad. It doesn't matter. The spirituality behind it is irrelevant. It's not even applicable. So no, I don't think it's like London, because not only does London have Sharia law, the issue there is everything there is self-inflicted, right? New York's always been a melting pot, so is London. The difference is the UK is essentially a socialistic country. They already have things like socialized national health care in the UK. We don't have that in the United States. They have a very generous welfare program. We already have that in the United States, and it still hasn't destroyed us yet. There's still time, but no, I don't see any correlation with London. London, a lot of the police aren't armed. Ours are armed. They just can't do their job, etc. So no correlation with Sharia law in London. Also, they've had that Pakistani mayor for like 10 years, and all the major cities in the UK, in Britain, have Muslim mayors. Birmingham, Liverpool, they're all Pakistanis and Arabs. New York is just stuck with this motherfucker. Susan, go ahead.
I've been seeing a lot of congressmen um, state that they think that he lied on his green card application and his naturalization papers. There's lots of videos, there's lots of statements out there. He refuses to um, condemn Sharia law, stuff like that. Now, I'm going to ask a question to you, Gads. Do you think that that's a possibility that he could have his naturalization citizenship removed and be deported?
Can I answer that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Anybody? Yeah, anybody. That would be great.
Yeah, absolutely not. That's not going to even matter because we had Obama who wasn't born in this country and he became the president. So, yeah, that's not going to happen because unfortunately, a lot of people in Congress and Senate, House Judiciary, all those people, they don't have the balls or the backbone to actually prosecute people and follow through with it. They just don't because they're all getting paid.
I'm
Yeah,
glad you brought up Obama. That was an interesting point of view.
Susan,
Eventually, I think that will come out.
Susan, the strategy is Trump is going to have to leverage NYC via his Article 2 powers as chief executive. So just like he's making the case that, Chicago's not safe, Memphis, Tennessee's not safe, uh, and utilizing the National Guard, flooding it with. You got to remember something, guys. Here's one thing I think is not by you people, but is not understood by a large cross section of people on this app. The FBI, DEA, ICE, Border, those are federal entities. They don't need the permission of mayors or governors to operate in states. That's not martial law. The FBI and ICE deporting criminals, illegals. Well, illegals. Let's just stick to illegals because that's the problem du jour we're up against. Trump does not need to ask J.D. Pritzker's permission to have, U.S. Marshals and stuff supervising deportations in Chicago. Okay, that's the big thing that I think people don't understand. Uh, the thing that they're hung up on is the National Guard, which is kind of a gray area. Okay, but National Guard they don't have powers of arrest, or like when he federalized the Marines from I can't remember where in California where they were out of, where they went up to Los Angeles to protect ICE agents when they were doing their raids and all that. I want to say Quantico, but that's in Virginia. Wherever the Marine Corps base is in California, I don't recall, near Los Angeles or San Diego. Anyway, that's what the hangup is on. So ICE flooding New York City is perfectly legal. A judge cannot stop it or put an abatement on it. The gray zone is the National Guard, with the exception of Washington, D.C., because District of Columbia is federal. It's a federal city. It's not its own thing. It's not part of the state of Maryland, et cetera, et cetera. Do you follow me? So Trump is still going to be able to do his thing. And what I would do if I was him, while Eric Adams is there for 3 more months, the current mayor, is I would just flood the zone with ICE. Deport as many people as you can. Make it so fucking hard for Mamdami's transition team to have a game plan. And I think that's what you're going to see happen. Maybe in that kind of cryptic post, and so it begins. And he's talked about it, guys. He laid the groundwork when people asked him, what happens if this guy wins? Well, I'm going to withhold federal money because he's a communist. And by the way, Mamdani can sue him all he wants. I don't think Trump's under any obligation to give any city in this country federal money, even if it's appropriated. Remember, you got to look at his Article 2 powers as chief executive. It doesn't mean dictator. It doesn't mean king. I'm just telling you guys, he has some discretion here. Now, presidents don't often do this. That's why you think he's going to get gummed up in the legal works on it. You know, Eisenhower did it in the 1950s when they desegregated colleges and stuff like that. He sent them to, I think Kennedy sent federalized the National Guard in Alabama.
30,000 he sent Kennedy.
Yes, 30,000. During the LA riots in the mid 1960s, Watts, during the civil rights era, they were federalized, I think, by LBJ, California National Guard. There's another one, another incident. Maybe the Rodney King riots in 1992, possibly. The California National Guard was federalized temporarily. There was a Republican governor, Pete Wilson, in 1992 in California too. Maybe that had a lot to do with it. Trying to think. Those are the recent times, guys. So the reason why you think the president doesn't have the powers that he has and that he's playing, if you think Trump is playing with fire, you have to look at what his Article 2 powers are. They're very, you know, this goes with the tariffs that, you know, by the way, that Supreme Court, they're hearing opening arguments today in that case. The tariffs, anything involving national or domestic security, it's very, very vague. So yes, presidents will get contested on it. Sometimes they get defeated in the courts. Oftentimes they don't. It's just, it's one of those things, like in case of emergency, break glass and be prepared to get some of those shards of glass back in your face when you smash the glass to get your Article 2 power acts. That's what Trump's playing with. He's not playing with fire. He's playing with tinder. So we'll see what exactly happens. He's got a Tinder bundle, and either it's going to get a spark or it's not. We'll see what happens, but you should look into that. I don't know how much longer I'm going to go, guys, but it's not a referendum on Trump. Let me just two quick things here. I wanted to talk about the financial impact on a lot of this. During the pandemic, you saw a lot of private people, a lot of private money leaving New York City for, you know, we're not going to rehash that. We know why. And they fled to other states. Now I think, though, this guy's got a big problem ahead of him, Mamdani, where I think Wall Street could be impacted significantly. Where Threat was talking about, and he put it in a good light. You know, all it's going to take is a handful of big business to leave New York City and take all their employees with them and take all their infrastructure with them. And those, you know, he's 100% right about that. I think here's another thing. You know, we're not, you know, Wall Street is not obligated to host the financial markets of planet Earth. You know that, right? There's already I think it's in Houston, called Y'all Street, where they have a lot of, you know, Houston is the New York of the South in terms of the financial sector. Now, everybody thinks Houston is just oil. Yes, that is true. That's it. But they also have the big banks, blah, blah, blah. You know, all it, TD Ameritrade, all the big banks are down there as well. It's not just about the oil commodities market in Houston. So it's very possible, guys, you might see a JP Morgan, right, leave New York City. Very, very possible. Maybe not Goldman Sachs, but some of these other players, absolutely. So
This is funny. Kevin Smith just posted, well, if you live in Florida, At least you know there's going to be an Italian restaurant on every block.
We don't need them in Florida, Susan. We need them in we need them in purple states. You know, if I was a New Yorker that was fed up after last night, going to Jersey would be a very good move, a very wise move. That's the problem. I don't want more people moving to Florida and North Carolina from blue states. I want you to move to purple states. Don't need any more people in Florida. I'm happy to say my home state, though, we had 3 special elections and the Republicans swept. So that's just proof positive that Virginia, Jersey, and New York City are not barometers, are not bellwethers of what's going to happen in the midterms, because the Republican mayor of Manchester, New Hampshire got reelected with 60% of the vote. That's our only urban city. Okay. We had Laconia, New Hampshire. We have a Republican mayor. That's like the motorcycle capital of New England, Laconia. It's got a very active bike week, kind of like Sturgis in South Dakota, where all the Harley guys go. So that was very red when I was a kid. Then it went very blue. And now it's back to being red again. And then there was a special election in a town called Berlin, New Hampshire, which is, even though it's called Berlin, it's got a lot of French Americans in it. Everybody there is French. But there's a guy named Mark Tremblay who won a special election by 13 votes for, I think there was a Democrat state rep that passed away. And so normally they wouldn't have this election, and he won by 13 votes. And by the way, guess who was there? Turning Point, New Hampshire, that got Mark Tremblay elected in a seat that the Democrats held since 1988. That's Berlin, New Hampshire. It's a big paper mill, industrial town. So blue collar town, basically. City is what I'm telling you. So a true purple state like mine gets a little bit redder last night. Where's the bellwether, folks? Where's the bellwether? Are you telling me that Richmond, Virginia is the bellwether? I don't think so. See, I told you guys, it has nothing to do with Trump. The losses last night, 0. Maybe in Virginia a little bit because of the shutdown. By the way, guys, I'm having the last of my apple cider from Vermont, and it's delicious. You should all be drinking apple cider. 100% natural. This is from, oh, I'm sorry, no, this is from Brookdale Fruit Farm in Hollis, New Hampshire. I had a Vermont one. I must have finished it. I'm just looking at the label. So this apple cider's giving me energy here to deal with this shit. So anybody else have any comment on, can we think of anybody have a solutions-based comment? All right, we know the young people are commie fucktards. I know Mamdami's a Muslim. We've already been over that. We don't need to hear it. Anybody have a solutions-based comment or an optimistic view? I gave you mine. You know, the purple parts of New Hampshire voted red last in our special elections. It wasn't statewide. It was just in select places. All of those places, Democrat strongholds, Manchester, Laconia, Berlin, all went Republican last night. So I don't know what to tell you guys. Where's the bellwether? New York City elected a communist. And in other news, water is wet. I'm telling you guys, the Democrats have the same autopsy conversations about Florida, about Oklahoma, about Arkansas, about Mississippi. They have these same conversations, guys. New York City might be next to San Francisco, might be the hardest place in the United States for a Republican to win. If you're just popping in the space, please go in the nest and look at that chart from Geiger Capital. 84% of women in Gen Z ages 18 to 19 voted for Mamdani. Look at the chart with all the demographics, it's a sea of blue, guys. We don't have 100 years to turn New York City red, guys. The only red you're going to see is the blood on the streets that this asshole is going to cause. And after the next speakers, I'll give my closing comments. But we'll see how we're doing on time. If I can maintain the signal, if I don't answer you guys, just somebody keep Janet, Gemini, keep talking. That means it cut out for me, but the space won't crash. I tested it yesterday. I'm going through the same job today, so I know where my dead zone's going to be. Don't wait for me not to answer. Just keep the conversation going. If somebody asks me a question or a speaker stops talking and I don't jump in, that just means I can't hear. It's not a problem with the space. It's a problem with me. Threat, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, as bad as we think that New York's going to become with Mamdani's insanity, if you look at the financial impact that New York City has on the state of New York, I mean, on the country, let alone the state of New York, but just focusing on the state of New York, whatever administration is in charge at the state level, which will probably be a Democrat administration, do they just sit idly by and let crazy Mamdani drive New York City into chaos and financial ruin, or do they step in and go, hey, you're not just impacting New York City, you're impacting the whole state and putting at risk our power. And so I wonder just how much tolerance there will be for Mamdani's policies, by the New York State legislature and governor. And secondly, as far as Virginia goes, I was a little hopeful that Sears would pull it out, but I'm not surprised. And this sounds really shallow, but we've talked about it in your spaces before, Gads. The visual and presentation it means a whole lot in our culture, even though we don't like to admit it. And I remember watching the highlights from the debate between Sears and the nutty lady, and I thought to myself, me personally, I really didn't like the way Sears presented. She had a strange body posture. She has kind of strange facial mannerisms, and it really kind of put me off. Like, and I really don't think in those sort of shallow terms. At least I thought I didn't think.
And she's a never Trumper threat.
And that's exactly. I was going to say that next.
It's kind of hard to run as a Republican when the leader of your country is somebody you don't like and you're a member of the same party. I mean, she was a fucking failed candidate, to put it nicely. But please continue.
Yeah, I know exactly. I mean, to me, that was the three strikes against her. Those two issues, right? She didn't look good. If I'm noticing it, then I know many other people are noticing it, right? It was just a turnoff. And secondly, of course, yeah, she was an ever Trumper. She wasn't going to motivate, the MAGA base in Virginia. And then third, I think you said it earlier. Virginia is filled full of federal workers, many of whom just lost their jobs, and so they're highly motivated to get revenge, right, against Trump and by extension the Republicans.
Yes, sir. That is 100% accurate. Yeah, Sears was a joke. I kept trying to tell you guys, these Republicans that are operating under the delusion that The president is not the leader of our party. They're insane, guys, and they all lose. How many times do we need to see this? If you have doubts, if you think the Republican Party is going to go back to conservatives and libertarians running everything, you're as delusional as Winsome Sears, thinking that she was going to win last night. We are a populist party now. We're not a conservative party. We're a populist party. Okay? Embrace it. The conservatives gave us George Bush and the destruction of the Middle East, and that one of the most evil men who died yesterday, Cheney, one of the most evil human beings to ever walk the face of the earth. That's what conservatism gives you in the United States. Populism is what unites people, not conservatism. Conservatism divides, populism unites. I'm about uniting without compromising my values. All right, I know I'm going into a dead zone here as I'm going down this country road. So, Janet, just take over for a minute or two. It looks like Susie's got her hand up. Please.
Well, I've never been really in favor of this filibuster idea, but I tell you what, I don't know. I'm hearing two things about this shutdown. Is this gonna, I'm kind of off topic a little bit. This, we've got to get a hold of this, the Trump agenda, seriously, because it will be a problem in the midterms if we don't. This voter ID thing, the stories I'm hearing out of New York, you could go to multiple different precincts, and then even California, no ID. I was listening to Alpha Warrior, zero ID. Are you registered to vote? Yeah. Not even checking a poll book to see, are you actually registered to vote? I mean, this kind of stuff needs to stop. Of course, the best way to stop illegals from voting is to get them all the hell out of this country. And I'm all for that as well, but there's a hell of a lot of them. And when it comes to this Muslim invasion, at some point, we got to take the hard stand that these Islamic radicals with connections to Muslim Brotherhood, they got to go. Many of the Middle Eastern countries don't tolerate that crap. Yet we're tolerating here in the West because we don't want to be Islamophobic. This is a bunch of bullshit. Good news is that that other Omar, whatever his name, in Minneapolis, he lost. So that's a good thing. But, the Democrats have turned to such a radical group that they will tolerate people who openly talk about killing Republican children. Like, where the hell have we come from? Seriously. That this is tolerated? That's the kind of stuff that really has me gobsmacked, that we tolerate and we vote for these kind of people. Like, where is our moral, ethical line here? Because the Democrats right now have zero moral authority, zippo. They celebrate the assassination of people they don't like and openly talk about socialism as the way to go. Well, good luck with that, because I mean, I think our education system has a lot to contribute to. When you look at Gen Z, they don't, you look at it, you watch interviews, they have no idea what communism and fascism looks like. None. They have no perspective on history. They have no perspective on the civics. None. We're too busy educating these children and how many genders you can be. Oh, and you can change your gender multiple times during the day. You too can be a unicorn with the right surgeon. This is just such absolute garbage. It's just failed on so many levels. And, Trump talked about the Insurrection Act during his interview on 60 Minutes. And this whole country is an insurrection. The entire country, every single state. I know New Hampshire's had some good things happening, but for the most part, we're even losing Texas, for crying out loud. What a mess. And in Florida, they're trying to get rid of every MAGA person within the GOP. Yeah, this is all going to end very poorly, but eventually it'll sort out. But in the meantime, good luck, New York. Good luck. And I don't know, there's still, I think there's 3 boroughs in New York that have city councils, and they have to have approval to do anything that Mandami wants. But in fact, I think Curtis Sliwa, who really, this is the best that the Republicans could come up with, him and his little red beret. Granted, they did all a great job during, times when there was high crime, but Jiminy Christmas, it's like a cartoon character, seriously. And I think that's why Trump couldn't even support him. If he really cared about the city, he'd have backed out a long time ago. Not that I like Como at all, but could have been real close if Sliwa had, put his ego aside for the betterment of New York. But it is what it is. Anyway, I think that's all I got right now.
But the way I live in Florida, and there's absolutely no movement of the GOP in Florida trying to get rid of MAGA. I just thought I'd throw that in.
Well, others are reporting differently, so I don't know. I don't live there either. I'm just telling you what I'm hearing. So, I don't know.
Be careful who you listen to.
Yeah, and I can't even point to who that is. I think, yeah, I don't know. That'd be nice to know. But yeah. So what do y'all think about the filibuster? Is it time to say goodbye to it and really just, push these things through? Because voter ID, we've got to have that. People literally could have gone from one precinct to another and voted multiple times. No ID, no registration, no nothing. Just, have at it. What a ridiculous system.
I'm not concerned. The Democrats have a what? Anywhere from a 10 to a 19% approval rating nationwide. No, that's nationwide. I'm sure that New Jersey, who actually Trump only lost that state by what, 6 points or 5 points? He only lost New Hampshire by like 1 point. He increased the Republican voting in majority of the counties in the United States. We know that the Democrats would not sign on to the CR bill, the continuation bill, because of this election. They knew the tariffs and the not the tariffs. They knew that the um, EPT card debacle, that was mostly, by the way, 59% of the people that are on SNAP are illegal aliens. But if you're not getting the news and you're not getting the information, you vote accordingly. I'm not concerned about New Jersey or Virginia or New York. That they will eventually find out that they made a mistake.
See, there's a big difference, though, between the local elections and presidential. You know, Trump can win in certain areas, but then the down ballot, that's where some of the cheating went on, was that down ballot. Because I don't think we're as, I think we should have had way more congressional seats than we got. And with the amount of cheating that goes on in this country during the midterms, they'll swing it any way they want. They have that ability. I mean, Californians now going to, you know, Prop 50 failed, or it was a yes. They're going to lose 5 congressional seats. Their whole goal is to take the midterms and stop everything that Trump is doing. That's why I think we do need to do the filibuster, stop the filibuster, because we need to have this voter ID situation squared away. This can't continue to go on like that, because they're fighting Trump at every single turn.
Do you think their goal is to destroy America?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely,
Guys,
and turn it into some
I'm
fascist
back.
communist.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah,
Or
we
no?
can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I didn't know when I would get out. I seem to be out of the woods, so to speak. I appreciate that. Well, I'm keeping this open, guys. I'm at work, but I'm not really. I'm just doing inspections on my guys. I'm not really working with the tools today, so I'm able to keep this going. I just wanted to add a few things in here really quick. I did listen to what most of Susie said. So I think that what we're looking at, friends, is that the takeaway is any win last night would have been a bonus. And I think what you really need to look at with bellwethers, if you're concerned about the midterms, as I said it earlier, my home state where we did pretty well, and we held one city in the mayor's race. That would be Manchester, and we flipped 2 other seats. Okay, so you could make the argument that in an off-year election, local elections in purple states went the Republicans' way. That's incredibly important if you're trying to handicap what happened last night. And I suspect many of you are, because we've been for over an hour now. So I'm not, you got to look at it, guys. Look at 2 things here. These are positives for the Republican Party going into the midterms. You still have an issue where uh, the 2 ladies that won, and I use that term loosely, Abigail Spanberger and Mikey Sherrill, who won the governor's seats in Virginia and New Jersey, respectively. Uh, they are still advocates of transgender everything and having women in men's sports. So, whereas, it's not even my opinion. It's irrefutable. Okay. So I don't exactly know how they're going to institute that, considering the law of the land is you can't do that anymore. So, and if you take a look at Mamdani, look at the percentage of women that voted for him. It's staggering. So women are voting for their own demise, uh, in my opinion, at least in New York City and in states like Virginia and New Jersey. Okay. Abigail Spanberger, Mikey Sherrill both want LGBTQ theory taught in public schools at taxpayer expense. They're proud of it, and they're on the record with it. So, all right, I just got to park the truck here, guys. Somebody talk for like 2 minutes, and then I'll reset the space if you
So
go ahead.
I don't know if y'all saw this guy in the locker room. This guy in some gym where this black chick just like lost. I mean, just like went ballistic on this dude. This wasn't even a guy dressed as a woman, pretending to be a woman. He was just a guy, and they took video of him, he came equipped. He had his shorts off. He had a bottle of lube. When the women in the locker room went after this dude, started yelling at him, videoing him, and he puts his shorts back on, grabs the lube, and sticks it in his pocket. Like, this is the bullshit. Like, we're not even pretending to be a woman. We're just full on guy, and we're just going to go in the women's locker room and have our way with. I mean, maybe it was courteous of him to bring the lube, whatever. I'm just like really appalled at that situation. Like, how do you, that's just like eight kinds of sick. And then, of course, they kicked her out.
Susie, where is
I,
this you're talking about?
I don't, Janet, do you remember where this was? It's in a Gold's Gym, I believe. But what state, I don't know.
No, I'm not familiar with this story at all, but I can tell you it's not going to get any better in New York City for women. So I would just ask you guys to have realistic expectations of what's going on. Again, if you're just popping in this space, look at the chart. Look at the percentage of women 18 to 29 that voted for Mamdani. You're now at 85% of that demographic. So
Yeah, how quickly we forgot about 9/11 and what radical Islamists tried to do to this country. Is it going to take another event?
I think
No.
they're all 24, 18, 19, up to say 30, maybe even 35, that these kids were either 8 and 9 years old and don't really remember it or weren't even born yet. So they have no recollection. They have no heart to know what a traumatic day that was for all of us. Um, they just don't know. They haven't got that, that inner gut feeling of, oh my God, I can't believe that this guy's running for mayor of New York City and he's a Muslim after what happened 24 years ago. They have no recollection of it. So it doesn't bother them to vote for them. And when you have 35% of the Jews in New York City voting for Mandami, there's a big problem there.
I guess
Well,
I'm
and I
not
really,
doing hands, but I just want to pop in and say, Susie, I just put down in the comments that incident that Libs of TikTok put up there. It's not stated where this actually happened, I don't believe. The one where the guy with the lube in the women's stall and gets confronted by two women and chased out. That's a different location than Tish, who a couple of days ago posted her Gold's Gym thing in LA. It's really ramping up now. Women are just really getting angry and speaking out. So this is this is the peakening, as I call it, that was bound to happen. Women are just going to have enough. So I'm kind of glad I've called this the year of the turf, and I think it's coming to pass. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry, I just wanted to break in on that one.
can I ask you guys something really quick while you're in the middle of that? I don't know if you guys heard my last comment. I would ask everybody to stop what you're doing and take a look at what's in the nest from Geiger Capital. Look at the demographic breakdown of who voted for Mamdani. Okay, I am. If Sharia law has come to New York City, women are voted it in. So by a staggering margin, 85% of women 18 to 29 voted for Mamdani. So we have to go back to the question I asked earlier: who is living in New York City? Because I don't think that's reflective of women en masse in this country, obviously. But I can tell you, it's very reflective of the women that choose to reside in the 5 boroughs. I mean, there's proof of that, right? It's not my opinion. Look at the data. So
these are very seductive men, right? They're using their seduction to bring in, and again, it's fascism is running the world. So this is Islamofascism, and the commies are using collectivist tactics, and the collectivist tactics work very, very well on women. So it's a two-hander here. The men are the ringleaders. The women are just going along as useful idiots. It's disgusting. They're idiots. But the men
Well,
are
I can
are leading it all, right?
well, I can tell you I went to Egypt just right as just before the COVID thing happened. And I can vouch for the seductive abilities of Muslim men. They have, first off, Egypt, if you like tall, dark, and handsome ladies, go to Egypt. The entire country is, and I'm not even into that, the tall, dark, and handsome. I'll tell you what, it's a country of tall, dark, and handsome. There's not an ugly man in anywhere. Their genetics are just like Adonis. Okay, just saying. And these men are very like, they're not like on their phones. They're not looking around when they're talking to you. They are staring you right in the eye and hanging on your every word like you are the most important thing. You're absolutely right, Esme. They are very seductive. And I didn't fall for it, but it certainly is
And
flattering. It's flattering
they're
because
blind,
when they
right?
100% pay attention to you like that, you're just like, wow. Because American men aren't like that. They're talking about themselves and they're checking their phone and they're looking around the room and you know, yeah.
There's a whole grift going on in Muslim countries where they take on older women. A lot of the times from they going down for tourism. Dutch women and Swedish, German, they do like the blonde Susie, so that's why you were targeted. And these lonely older widows go down there and they take these young lovers and they pay for everything for them. I saw a documentary on it. It's the most bizarre thing, and these women are totally taken in by it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They yeah, absolutely. And it's even younger men. They don't, yeah. I have a friend
Exactly.
who has zero discernment. She's had more Egyptian
Weird.
boyfriends than you can shake a
Yep.
stick at. And she's actually said to me, she goes, I have she's very intuitive. She said, though, when it comes to men, Zippo.
Cougar.
Yeah,
It's cougar
they
country.
don't
It's
care that
cougar
you're old
country.
enough to be their mother.
Or grandmother, maybe even.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Bizarre.
Oh yeah.
ladies, let me
Yeah.
as much as I love this information update, and it is an information update. So if you're a lonely woman in your whatever age, I guess Egypt is the place for you. But I don't think anybody in here is lonely. So interesting stuff, Susie. So yeah, I'm just at work, guys. Ignore the running water here. I'm working on a well quickly. I just have to tell you, yesterday again, I understand the dude is a Muslim, and I understand nobody wants Sharia law or Islamofascism. But I would implore you, if you've not been to New York in like the last 20 years, you should probably swing by, because this is a bit bigger than the guy's alleged religion. It's a part of it, of course. But if we're in agreement, friends, that people from the third world, from undesirable countries, Islamo-fascists, Latin gangbangers, blah, 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 if we're under agreement that they came into the United States, or if, over the last 4 years of Biden, that 20 million of them came into this country. That was done by Biden, who is allegedly a Catholic. So, a lot of these sleeper agents and things like that were Biden's groundwork. So I just ask you, everybody, to consider that, because I do think, again, the dust is settling on the conversation. I understand New York has a huge Jewish population. I understand they just elected a Muslim mayor. I understand MAGA people are bewildered as to how that happened. And I gave about half an hour ago what I thought was a pretty decent explanation, is that there's a lot of secular Jews in New York City, just like there's a lot of secular Christians, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Many of you are baptized. You might not have seen the inside of a church since you were a teenager. It's the same thing with Jews. Because they're ethnically Jewish doesn't mean they keep the Sabbath, doesn't mean they celebrate Rosh Hashanah, you know, and I'm not even sitting around saying that they should. You know, if somebody was brought up a Lutheran and now they're an atheist, I'm not going to sit around and say, you know, you should take pride in your spirituality and celebrate Christmas and Easter. I don't get that invasive with people's personal lives. So don't be so bewildered, kids, because there's been kind of atheistic Marxist Jews living in and around. I mean, send one of your kids to NYU or Columbia University, and you'll see it. So don't be so taken aback that they voted for this guy because he's allegedly or because he's a Muslim. I don't foresee that as being earth-shattering here, right? There is a religious sect of Jews in New York, and really they're probably 30 to 35% of the population. So I don't know. I think the takeaway with New York City, guys, is we have to look at what happened last night for what it was and what it was not. What it was not a referendum on Trump or MAGA. All right. What it was is the acceptance of the transient young white people that live in that city, and the tens of thousands of illegals that live there are accepting what's going to lead to anarchy. Because Mamdani's vision for the city is not sustainable. Okay, so it's first of all, they can, you know, he'll just raise taxes and not get. I do agree with that. That's what he's going to do. I think the problem that New York is facing en masse is that during the pandemic, you had private money, regular citizens leaving the state, and they didn't recover from that either, guys. Just, you know, make no mistake. There are real estate listings in Westchester County that are still there. But the other thing is now you're looking at the potential of Wall Street and big business leaving. It happens in Silicon Valley, guys. Tech companies leave Palo Alto the last 5 years. They've left for Texas, for Tennessee, for Florida. There is precedent. There's nothing in our laws or our Constitution or any of our founding documents that says that the corner of Wall Street has to be the financial hub of the planet. You know, I just gave you the example of Y'all Street in Houston, I believe. So we got a new speaker here who came up. Arden, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, full disclaimer and disclosure. I'm Christian. I swore an oath to protect the Constitution by the profession that I'm in. The United States is the most important country in the world. The only other country important to me is Armenia because it was the first Christian nation. That's where my ancestors are from. That's the disclaimer. What happened yesterday should not at all be a shock. And you have to look at it from the perspective of the New Yorkers that voted. You have to put yourself in their shoes. I'm from California. Everything is very expensive here. Everything. I'm not a socialist. I'm a pure capitalist. The system, the way that it is now, is kind of not set up for the younger generation to be able to buy a home. These are things that they have to worry about. We're established in the sense that most of us have a good job that can buy a home, Midtown USA, parts of California, etc., etc. We can afford it. Or we have parents, for example, that have had a home and have been able to pass it down and we've inherited it. I haven't been one of those, but there are lots that are in that position. Those in New York don't have that. So they're disillusioned by everyone telling them for the last couple of years, the American dream is dead. The American dream is dead. You can't buy your white picket fence. You can't buy your home. You can't afford it. Inflation is up. These are all true to a certain degree, but there's people buying homes all the time, granted for a higher interest rate, but they're able to buy a home. They just have to save. Then they can buy it. If they were to save for 6 months and then afford it a few years ago, now they have to save for a year. They're not saving. They're just spending. They're disillusioned. They think nothing's going to happen. No good is going to come out of anything. So they just spend their money, and they're doing the complete polar opposite of what they're supposed to be doing. And they sit back and complain about not having enough capital, not having enough funds, not having enough opportunities. So in comes this guy who says a few key words. And when you're telling disillusioned people, think World War II, pre-World War II, Nazi Germany. I'm not talking about the Nazis. I'm talking about you have this one evil guy that history shows to be very, very, very evil, telling these group of Germans that you're very important. You're a good person. You got to blame everybody but yourself. Um, there's no opportunities here. Everyone's got their heel on our necks, and then they rallied around him. That's them. Fast forward to 2025. You got a bunch of New Yorkers that can't do any of the things that I've just spent time doing, and I'm not going to be a broken wheel and say it again. But they actually came out and voted. The icing on the cake is because New York is so multicultural and has so many different backgrounds. The one thing that he says, and if you guys remember the primaries and the debate, the one thing he said very different than everybody else was, I don't take APAC money. I don't want to go to Israel. I'm not anti-Israel. I'm just saying the things he said triggered those that were looking for someone to accept the fact that their future could potentially be in jeopardy or screwed by blaming someone else. And so they rallied around him. Socialism has never really worked, ever, unless you're like Denmark or Holland, a small country with a population of, let's say, 10 million for the entire country, something to that effect. It'll never work in the United States. It's almost like wishing for falsehood to be the truth. That's what happened yesterday. And if I'm not mistaken, there's a lot more people than roughly 1 million people that went out to actually vote. People just didn't vote. Those that wanted to vote, voted. Those that didn't want to vote, well, they didn't vote and it didn't count. And there wasn't 5 million votes or 4 million votes. I think it was less than a million. I mean, we're sitting here complaining. I get it, but was it really a surprise to
Oh,
anyone?
not complaining.
It
No,
wasn't to
no,
me.
no, 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 Arden. I don't know when you came in. Anything but complaining in here.
Well, no, not you or people in this space. There are tons of other
No,
spaces that are talking
well,
about this topic right now.
because I think that they're ignorant to the fact that they think that a mayoral race in New York City, which is a Democrat city if there ever was one, is a referendum on President Trump's current policy. And I've the last couple hours I've been. It's if you have the time, I would encourage you to listen to this recording when I'm going to end it soon. But at the first like 30 minutes of the space, I'm telling people in here, don't get hung up on the Islam. That's the least of the problems here. The problems with Mamdani is he has emotionally manipulated a lot of young people that have in their life, yes, like you said, affordability questions and things like that. But they're young. That's exactly it. They're not students of history. They weren't even born during 9/11. They don't know that socialism has never worked even in Western Europe in the mid 20th century. That's the problem. That's what makes Mamdani dangerous. It's the same thing that got Obama elected in 2008. Is that he is the embodiment of New York City. I don't feel bad for the people there because look at the Geiger Capital chart up there. The politics of New York City are what got elected last night. And I think the other thing that people in my Magosphere don't understand is that they're people from down south or the Midwest who haven't been to New York City maybe ever or in a very long time, and they're bewildered that how can these American flag waving, Yankee hat wearing Irish, Italian, and Jewish New Yorkers vote for a communist. And I tell them because they don't live in New York anymore, and that the entire population of the five boroughs, or at least Manhattan and Brooklyn, have been completely repatriated to transient people that have no roots in New York City. And their biggest concern is having affordable rent because they want to live in Midtown near the clubs. And that's what they voted on. This shouldn't have surprised anybody. It certainly doesn't surprise me. The reason why I think MAGA people are not understanding Mamdani's win, it's not because they expected a Republican to become the mayor of New York. It's that they're not understanding the demographic shift in that city. It's not just a city of like old school liberal Italian people or old school liberal Irish people or old school liberal Puerto Rican people in the Bronx. It's that you have people that live in New York by the millions that aren't from New York, and they just want the free shit.
It's that and the fact that a lot of people, and I mean just a raw, regular, average American, can't comprehend that when you have immigrants, be it from whatever background or whatever faith they believe in, when it comes to their ability to vote, they will vote. Whether you agree with their political position or not, immigrants have voted much more efficiently and much more predictably than your average American citizen has. And that's not a bad thing, but that just means, hey, if there's a candidate that comes out that's completely polar opposite of all American values that we have, that we share, the very least that we can do is get up and vote. If we can't go to the ballot, send the ballot in. If you don't, the numbers don't lie. By the way, I agreed with everything that you said, 100%. It is what it is at this point. But, New York was controlled by the mob for decades. It didn't fizzle out. Wall Street didn't go away. This is only just a mayoral election. The
Well,
concern is going to be if he does really well there, then what's the next step? And that's the only thing I'm concerned about.
that's the problem. You see, Bloomberg had ties to the business community. Giuliani certainly had ties to organized crime. Not that he was involved in it, but he prosecuted it. That's how he knew. The organized crime. This is something altogether different. This is a manifestation of all of Bernie Sanders' worst policies in the body of an Obama in an era where the Democratic Party is encapsulated by the squad. And that's what won in New York last night. And I have to tell you, I'll go to Esme next, guys. I got to close this soon. I'm starting to get kind of dialed in at work here, and I can't keep putting the phone down. I'm sorry. Appreciate everybody, by the way. Esme, you'll be the last speaker unless Janet has anything to say. I think here's what we do as MAGA. If we're not learning, we're not living. And nobody in here should be bewildered or shocked. Like, would you be shocked if I told you Biloxi, Mississippi elected a Bible thumping Baptist Republican as their mayor? I mean, that would be expected, wouldn't it? This is the politics of New York City, guys. It's a far cry. You got to remember, 9/11 was a quarter of a century ago. And the city's been repatriated by people that weren't even born yet. And, thanks to Joe Biden and lax immigration policies, illegals that don't even belong there. Hence, the mentality and the initiatives of said city have changed. And I was just in New York last year, guys. It's not what you think it is. You're romanticizing about, movies from the 1970s and 80s. There's no Officer Flanagan, an Irish beat cop on this. It's not like that anymore. You're hard pressed to find native-born Americans in the city, and those native-born Americans, you're hard pressed to find white kids that grew up in Brooklyn, the Bronx, and Queens. They're white kids, but they're students from the Midwest or northern New England that come from very left-wing backgrounds. You know, people from Vermont don't move to Katy, Texas, or Birmingham, Alabama. They move to New York or Boston. This is simple stuff, guys. It's the people of New York City got what they voted for. God help them, because they're going to need it. Esme, you're the last speaker. Go ahead.
Thanks, Mark. And your analysis is bang on, as is threats about the cost of living and the, disgruntled younger generation, and rightly so. I mean, the economic policy for the last 40 years has created this mess that the kids find themselves in, and they are so demoralized. But it also speaks to what both of you have touched on, is that urban rural divide, right? And so, yeah, no, people from the Midwest, people from the prairies in Canada, they don't understand what goes on in New York, what goes on in Toronto, what goes on in San Francisco. Like, they can't really understand it. And it's so true. The transformation in these cities is dramatic. Like, for people born and bred in these cities, we're leaving Toronto. Like, what's happening in New York is already in full swing here. And it's just going to get worse. And the whole demographic shift is a problem. And couple that with the fact that this generation, the 18 to 29s, have been brainwashed in the indoctrination centers, which are the public schools system, to, America is the great Satan, Israel is the little Satan. And so it's a perfect storm. And yeah, and the women, again, it's the seduction. You look at attractive male leaders, like look at Newsom, attractive guy, Trudeau, Mamdani. And that's one of the reasons why Trump is so roundly criticized, is because he's an older, chubby guy with weird hair and orange makeup. Like, everything is so surface with the younger generations, and they just don't have the background. As many people have pointed out, they weren't even alive on 9/11. They don't know their history. It's just a perfect storm. So yeah, I'm really sorry about New York City. It's a great city, and I hope that it can pull through on this and regain, but it's going to take some time, because he's going to put all of his commies into key places, and it's going to be hard to get rid of them in the bureaucracy, like the deep state, like they run it. So anyway, thank you, Mark, for the mic. I really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
You're welcome. Have a great day. Guys, it was I would say, mildly epic conversation. I'm sorry, when I'm driving, it gets a little shitty, the connection, but I just want to let you know that I appreciate y'all. Janet, thanks for co-hosting. And listen, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and that's keep working hard. And we'll talk about this closer to the midterms again. But NYC is toast, and it's all internally done. This is what they voted for. This is what they're going to get. It's our constitutional republic in action. This is what they want. Let's see if they can sustain it. And I'm willing to bet that they can't. You guys have a great day. Thank you.